everybody. I'm Laurence Fabre, the Executive Director of the French-American Chamber of Commerce of San Francisco. So we're based in San Francisco, but we cover all Northern California, and we have a lot of our activities, which is in the wine and in the wine industry especially. So this is why today we have also this webinar. First of all, I want to thank very much Michel Rolland, who accepted to be part of this webinar today, and Gilles Fontaine, the editor-in-chief of Challenge, for moderating this panel. So I also want to thank our sponsor, HNA Financing, and François Gros, who is here today. Thank you very much for supporting our event. Just a few words on the French-American Chamber of Commerce. For those who don't know us, we're a non-profit, non-governmental organization. We foster and engage the French-American local business community, so the business community of the Bay Area, and we help French companies to set up and develop their activities in the US. So we do that thanks to our members, our events. Right now it's digital events, but we hope that we can resume our activities soon, and our corporate services. And we do a lot of trade mission, learning expedition in Silicon Valley and California, recruitment, and also a lot of marketing and communication for our members. So as Chamber of Commerce, we're very proud to have very diverse members and a lot of different members from different industry, and the wine industry is really dynamic and is really a big part of our activity. So this is why we have this webinar today with Michel Rolland, thanks to an introduction of also Jean Antiger, for those who know him, who helped us a lot to organize this event. I just also want to say a few words, and Gilles is going to also give us some information, but about the partnership of the French-American Chamber of Commerce and magazine Challenge. So as you know, for a lot of you, as a French-American Chamber of Commerce, we organize each year the French-American Business Award, which is one of our signature events with 300 people and a very thorough process with different categories. Tech, wine, food business, etc. And we have all the leaders, we highlight all the leaders of the Bay Area each year, and this year we have to postpone this event, but we had normally a partnership with Challenge, because Challenge is doing each year also an article about the leadership in Silicon Valley, and so we thought that the French-American Business Award and Challenge could partner on this event. On the occasion of this event, we also had organized a learning expedition with Challenge to have executives from France coming in Silicon Valley and the Bay Area to discover the ecosystem and the innovation ecosystem. This learning expedition will be, we think, postponed to next year, but you're welcome to subscribe if you want more information for next year. With that said, I want to thank again everybody and the team of the Chamber for helping us today. Thank you all for attending, and enjoy the discussion with Gilles and Michel Rolland. Again, an honor to have you today. So Gilles, if you want, you can start the discussion.
Sure. Thank you very much, Laurence, for this kind introduction. Just a quick word about me and my magazine. I'm one of the chief editors of Challenge. Challenge is a business weekly magazine with a circulation of around 200,000 copies per week, 800,000 readers, and so we're basically the leading business magazine here in France. We could say like a Business Week in the US or The Economist in the UK. So well, we're very pleased to have Michel Rolland for this second session of our web seminars series we're trying to set up with our friends from the French-American Chamber of Commerce in San Francisco. And allow me this short introduction, although most of you, I'm sure, are very familiar with this outstanding personality in wine business. Michel Rolland entered the wine industry nearly 50 years ago. In fact, he was born a winemaker and grew up in the Bordeaux region. in Pomerol, to be precise. He graduated from the prestigious Bordeaux Oenological Institute in 1972 and has since built up an incredible international reputation. His style has influenced probably dozens of winemakers around the world. So we see now we see Michel as a winemaker, a cellar master, enologist, consultant. Well, he's has established himself as a true wine guru. It was, as a matter of fact, the title of his book published a few years ago. Michel Rolland has given his advice in more than 15 countries over the past few decades, notably in Bordeaux, of course, and in California. I'm sure he's very well known over there. And this has earned him another nickname, the Flying Winemaker. Michel, you haven't, I guess, been flying much over the past few weeks, past few months. What is your vision of this crisis and the impact it might have on the whole wine industry? Michel?
And just after the flying winemaker now is not flying anymore because there is no flights, no more planes to fly. But that's the life. But the wine business, it's about my career. I just want to tell two things more than what you say. I did wine in 21 different countries in the world. I think it's sort of performance because nobody did that before, and I think now is even more complicated for the new generation to do the same. And secondly, my career began with laboratory where we were doing analysis and not consulting. In fact, the consulting is born a little bit with myself because consulting was not existing in the wine world when I began 40 years ago or 45 years ago consulting because you know, the owners at this time, Napa was not Napa today, or any country in the world was not like they are today, and all the owners was thinking they were the best winemaker on the world, and they were not needed some advices, and they were not expecting consulting. In fact, but the story shows they need that, and that's why consulting now is more famous. I am one of the oldest one now, and there is a lot of young people coming in this business, and I think for the wine industry is a good point. That's it for me.
Well, maybe Michel, just one quick one about your personal story. You were both very much admired, still very much admired, and sometimes very also you can be controversial with your very nice Southwest French accent. You used to say, well, all the people, all the guys. Of course, we're all thinking about Mondovino and this those speculations that there was at this time, and you usually say now, well, they are gone and I'm still there. So how do you resent these sometimes nice? It was a kind of attack, but of course you reacted in your own way with a lot of humor.
But you know, it's very simple. If you are doing nothing, you have no enemy and no controversial position. But if you are doing something, and to do something, you have to speak, you have to move, you have to shake a little bit the industry. And at this time is exactly like in politics. You have 48% against you and 52% for you. And if you have 52% for you, you are the best. And so you are still there after 50 years. That's it. it's very simple. In any case, you are a doctor, you are whatever you want to be. That's the same position almost everywhere, and we can see that every day in press position, in politic position, everywhere. An enologist, unfortunately, doesn't escape to this, and that's the same. But I'm still there. I'm 72 now, and I'm there from 25th or 25, 26. So I'm quite strong and resistant.
And we can see how the wine and red wine in particular is very good cure for everything, because you seem in great shape. You know, it's like you don't look like you have 70. You're 72 years old.
No,
Get back to the question. Yeah. Well, in your opinion, of course, it's very difficult to say at this point. But on your opinion, how is this crisis currently impacting the wine business?
But well, I think nobody knows exactly what can happen. What we can consider today, if we look at the market during the pandemic, we have seen of course two things. You can imagine, of course, restaurants and bars and anything is absolutely zero activity. But for the home trade and the distribution was quite good. So if I look what the numbers I know, we have some balance, and people are drinking more wines at home. So in fact, the market was not completely down and was not so bad. Today, people or consumer are not really very active for the reason we know, and we don't know tomorrow what will be the position of the consumer, because the problem is economically we are all, I think, mostly all damaged by this period, and wine is not the first necessity, and so we certainly the market will be a little bit low and very very small in the next months. I have no idea, but I think, because I'm receiving some people, I'm speaking with people, and everybody think the market will be a little bit down for the next few months, maybe until the end of the year. So otherwise, it's not completely dramatic, because I think finally at home people are drinking more wine than they drank even before. So that's what we can say today, and let's see 2 or 3 months.
We're losing
more.
you, Michel.
More.
I can hear you. I think we're good. Michel?
Okay, good. Okay, good.
Yeah.
This is okay. I can hear you.
Yeah. No. But about the market, or about the wine business in the future, I can say more, because nobody knows exactly. And Bordeaux now is at the beginning of the primeur sales, but I think the first chateau went out this morning, so we don't know yet the response, the answer of the global market. So we have to wait, and certainly the period itself has not been so terrible for the market, because people went to the shop and bought wines. Of course, no more restaurants. That's a huge market for the wine business. But people drink a little bit more than they at home than they used to drink normally.
Let me just also remind you all participants that
Gilles, can I just add to the participant? If you want to ask questions, we will read them at the end. You can ask your question to Roland or to Gilles in the chat. You should find it at the bottom of your screen. We'll read the question after the discussion. Just adding that, and then I'll let you continue. Sorry about that.
Okay, I was about to say that. So Michel, maybe you can give us I can ask you a plain question, very simple question, or maybe not. I don't know. What are the difference? Because both markets, French market and French winemaker, of course, and the American market and the Californian winemakers. What are the main differences between the two, and how did both evolve over the past decades?
So about France first. Sorry, we are at the Chamber of Commerce in San Francisco, but I am speaking about France first because France always has been a country to exporting wine and selling wine in almost all the country over the world. By exportation. So France, I think today is exporting more than 40 or 45% of the global production, and US is the first market for France. And after that, we have obviously UK. We have now China. We have many countries where we are. The French wines are very successful. So technically, France began his relative modern evolution 35 years ago or 40 years ago. In fact, when I came, it's not my fault, but when I came on, and my part of my success is like a surfer. You have a wave. You take the wave and you can surf the waves. That's what I did. That's why I'm here. But France began 40 years ago to change his mind in terms of production, in terms of quality, in terms of vision over the market. Of course, the new world, as we call from France, the new world, like America or United States, came a little bit later. And California has a completely different way of life, because California, unfortunately, and maybe fortunately, had a great disaster in the vineyard, because the phylloxera is a small insect damaging the vineyard. So this phylloxera we had in Europe almost 1 century ago, and we did a new vineyard and we rebuilt all the vineyard in France, but we forget a little bit. And America, the phylloxera came in the mid 80s, more or less, and damaged 80% of the vineyard, because 20% was planted with resistant rootstock, and the rest disappear. But where was maybe a good opportunity for US, they replanted the vineyard. They replanted the vineyard in modern style, with very good clones, very good rootstock, of course, resistant to phylloxera, and they produce fantastic wines in the middle of the 80s, end of the 80s, mostly 90s, and now. So for 30 years now, California is producing fantastic wines and beautiful wines. Second point, completely different as France. California now is, or US is just at the beginning of exportation. I'm sorry, but I don't know exactly the number of exportation, but my opinion is not over 10%, and 90% is domestic market. So that's completely that's very close approach and completely different approach, because the market for US is US, and the market for France is everywhere in the world.
So would you say that this crisis, but even though there were, let's think the problem as though there weren't any sanitary crisis without COVID and Corona. Do you think that you have different ways of consuming wine and also of marketing wine between California and France?
Yes, so certainly the structure are not the same. Because, as you know, in France we are, and mostly in Bordeaux, we are a chateau. We are very small vineyard. We have image, but we don't speak too much about the image, the wine, and the production. California, because it's really it's new. The cult wine, for example, in California came out 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and the distribution is completely different. Bordeaux, we have the negociant selling wine everywhere in the world. California, the winery are doing their own distribution. So it's a totally different world, and very, very successful for California, very successful in the high level, because after that, in the lower level, the market is very difficult for everybody, and there is permanently a lot of fights to be the best, but higher level, the market is really open in US for Napa wine or other great wines in US, and that's completely different as the distribution of Bordeaux, because Bordeaux need to have negotiation. One owner is not able to be in contact with 50 different countries. For US, they have mostly one country, so it's much more simple, and all are speaking the same language. That's also important.
I have a follow-up question from James, one of our participants. Do you think, or do you see a comeback for Merlot in California, or perhaps the rise of any other grape in California beyond Cabernet Sauvignon?
Yeah, but you know, I can say a good story about that, because my first consulting has been in 1986 in Napa. Was not in Napa, was in Hillsburg, was in Sonoma, and so I came because winemaker at this time want to make Merlot, and because I was known as the winemaker of the right bank, and where we know there is mostly Merlot, they invite me to work on Merlot, and we work on Merlot. We work well, and we did well, and the problem is we had quite successful Merlot in the market. At this time, sorry, but it's not really fair what I'm telling, but at this time, what happened? Because Merlot was successful, like American people can do, they planted a lot of Merlot. Unfortunately, Merlot is not good everywhere, and they produce, we can say, very basic and really not really interesting Merlot. and finally they kill the brand Merlot. And in the 90s, Merlot went down very strongly, almost disappear. And today there is Merlot, of course, because the winery have Merlot. Nobody is mentioning Merlot on the bottle, never. But Merlot is coming back because the taste of Merlot and the wine produced by Merlot are good when the Merlot are in good shape or good condition to be good. We can plant Merlot everywhere. We can produce whatever amount of kilo for Merlot vineyard. So we learn, or everybody learn anything about the Merlot, and the Merlot is coming back because the Merlot is good. Like the Cabernet Franc, nobody was speaking about Cabernet Franc before. Today, Cabernet Franc is almost fashion. And why? Because Cabernet Franc is much better than before. But that's technical evolution.
So we have a lot of questions from the participants. So I'll just pick some of it. They're doing my job, so it's very comfortable for me, right? So I'll pick up the question from Nicolas. We'll stay in California, and Nicolas, well, or maybe not just California, but we'll start to speak more global from now. Nicolas asks, do you think we are maybe in the way to a more standardized, way of doing wines, like during the Parker era, or on the contrary, a diversification of grape variety and techniques of vinifications?
I don't know Nicolas, but I think he's not completely right in his question. First of all, the standardization never happened, never, because it's very simple. If you are rich enough, you take 10 cult wine in Napa Valley or 15 cult wine in Napa Valley, and you put on the table side by side. If you can say the wines are the same, you have a problem. You are not a good taster. Oh, that's it. After that, the standardization is more on the lower level, entry-level market or even lower level. Why? Because the grapes are not, the terroir and the grapes are not making the difference. So the wines are technically almost perfect, sometimes, not all the time, but almost perfect. So the wines are quite similar, but at the price you pay for that, consumer is expecting a good wine. He's not expecting a great wine. And there is not to expect a great wine because it's not possible to produce great wine everywhere. So the standardization is at lower level. At the top level, never. So there is no question, Parker or not Parker. Parker has been strong, as we know, and has been fantastically important in the wine business. But Parker was with a taste, with his own taste, and nobody has to have the same taste as Parker. But he has been successful because everywhere in the world, everybody was writing Wine Advocate, and so it's not his fault. Certainly, a consensus was over him, but like everybody, 52% for and 48% against. But 52% was enough to make a market, and Bob Parker did a huge efforts for the wine market all over the world.
When you say when you talk about emerging wine regions, what are the key players today, and who is really emerging? Who is leading the race?
But we can consider two things. But we can say US today is producing fantastic wine, but because US is producing fantastic wine, we cannot say we produce fantastic wine everywhere. If you take Napa, from Carneros to Calistoga, for example, Napa Valley area. Not all the places are good to make great wines. Today, we know where the great wines are from, and there is other places where we are just producing regular or good, but not outstanding wines. And if you come to Pomerol, because that's my land, my homeland, and if you come to Pomerol, that's the same. Of course, everybody know Petrus, but Petrus is not everywhere in Pomerol. There is place where the wines are good, even a little bit more than good. That's it. They are not great wines. That's everywhere the same. And all the new world, new countries like Argentina, Chile, or whatever, South Africa, Spain, Italy, step by step, people are discovering the place where we are able to produce great wines and the place where we are able to produce good wines. The difference before the 25 years, 30 years ago, we are making decent wine almost everywhere. That's a good point. But great wine, forget it, there is no miracle. We have to have, the great wines are from the soil and the combination soil, vines, and climate. So if you don't have that, we can make decent wine, but not great wines.
What is your definition of a great wine, Michel?
It's very you know, great wine is very personal. Maybe the great wine for me are not the great wine for you. Take care for you. But no, but in fact we can like a wine very much, but we have sort of complexity, density, ability to age. That's a problem today because we are drinking more and more earlier. But there is many small factors making the difference. And again, when we put side by side, at one moment one wine is more exciting than the other, and that's the definition. There is no intrinsic definition. That just we have to compare. To know where the best are, we have to compare. And as I say all the time, the wine you like is the best wine. Even is not completely true in terms of my job or my mind and my taste.
Well, you mentioned the fact that people, well, we all drink wines that are younger. You drink wine earlier and earlier. Do you agree with that, or is that a crime?
I agree. No, I don't have to agree or not. But the problem is a problem of life today. It's more and more difficult to have a cellar. It's more and more difficult to keep wine for a long time, like we were doing before. And so people are going to the shop and buying wine this afternoon for tonight, and so that's a new tendency of consumption. But I think is a pity for them because when you can drink 10 years old or 12 years old, even in California, you know, California. I know very well California. I'm spending almost 2 months every year, in normal season, not this time. But you are going to a restaurant. I think today we are drinking almost 2014 or 2015, and there is really very few bottles of 11, 10, or 9 disappear on the restaurant list. So that's terrible because personally I'm lucky enough to drink wine much older, and you know, today I'm tasting California from 2005 or 2000, 2001, because I have my own cellar and I keep the wine. And the wines are so much better after 10 years or 15 years. And that's where today we are in a little bit contradiction. People want great wines, but the life not allowed them to drink the wine at the right time. And that's where we are a little bit in difficulty, because we can't, if you don't make the right wine, you have the journalist giving you bad rating, and if you are making the right wine, everybody is drinking much early or too early, and that's a pity, because the wine is not completely ready.
I have a question from Damien. Damien says the US has around 10,000 wineries in total with the very small production. Do you think that this crisis could be a danger for these structures, eliminate them? Is there a danger there?
Again, I don't know really, but my feeling, I hope not, because I hope the life will come back, not maybe like before, but as soon as possible, and people show they like wine because they drink wine during the lockdown, and that's the interesting point, because people doesn't stop to drink wine. They drink wine, even they were not buying wine at the restaurant or buying wine like normally. They drank wine. That's interesting, and I hope it's not a problem for the future, and the American market is even the Chinese are saying the Chinese market is the number one. For me, the number one market is America, is the United States, because that's the most important market in term in volume and in term of money. So I think there is no huge problem to see for the future because of this crisis, and certainly will be slow to recover, but I don't think it's a huge problem for the future.
Another question from, I don't, there's no name there, but on your opinion, what is the one element of wine quality that winemakers in California should focus on in order to be more globally competitive?
Oh, that's a winemaker question.
Yeah, probably. That's why it's anonymous, right?
No, I think the most important, in fact, and I'm sorry to say that, for the young winemaker, not for me, because my future is on my back, so no problem. But I think the problem is the grapes. The good winemaker is not the guy making fantastic wine with bad grapes, because nobody can do that. So the good winemaker has to know where the best grapes are from. And if you have the best grapes, you are making the best wine. And independently of yourself or whatever, the best grapes are making the best wine. And so you have to find the best location, the best viticulture, and the best grapes. That's my and anytime I have a new client, because as you know, certainly I have quite a lot of clients in the valley. I'm saying the same, because I know the valley very well. I know the location, and I know. So I'm saying, here we can make a very good wine, but forget the top level wine, because that's not the right place. Sometimes they are surprised, but that's true. there is no miracle. That not the guru. You mentioned the guru in the book, as you can imagine, was a sort of joke, and because in my life they gave me all the name. I have been Jordan, I have been Maradona, I have been all and bad name also. So that's why we use guru, because guru was good in French, was good in English, and was good in Spanish. My three different place where I'm going more often.
Another expert question. This one is from Juan Pablo from Sullivan Vineyards in Rutherford. How much, this is very technical, how much do you think the current crisis can change the Tier 3 distribution system restrictions in the US?
Again, pardon, I do not hear very well.
Okay, let me rephrase. How much do you think the current crisis can change the Tier 3 distribution system restrictions in the US? I told you this was quite precise.
That's a good question. Of course, again, there is no answer. But what we see one thing. I'm sorry for the restaurant, but the problem in wine distribution, when you can get a bottle directly from property, you have a price level. When you are going to the restaurant and you want to pay for a bottle at the restaurant, before was 3 times, 3.5 times. Today we can find 5 times, even 6 times the price you can get from the property. So that's a big problem for the wine business. And what we have seen in that crisis, no restaurant at all. Well, pity. I completely I'm completely sad about the situation. But people are buying wine, but are buying wine in global market and paying the price of the market, not the price of the restaurant. And maybe they can see the difference between what they pay at the restaurant and what they pay in the shop. And so can be interesting for the future, because people can buy wine even before to go to the restaurant and to ask to the restaurant to bring their wine. And some restaurants are allowed in that. So because there is too much pricing on the in some restaurant, when you know the bottle is $100 and you pay $500 for the same bottle, somewhere is damaging is damaging the market, and I don't like that very much. I don't know the solution for that, and so maybe this situation can show to the people how they pay one bottle in shop instead of the same bottle at the restaurant.
What is the difference between a good $100 bottle in a shop and a $10 bottle, a very good $10 bottle in the shop? Focus on the price. I mean, does the price means anything? I will always wonder.
No, when you pay, but to be simple, because it's not simple. It's not a simple question. To be simple, when you pay $100 bottle, you have 90% of chance to have a very good wine. When you pay $10 bottle, you have 70% of chance to have a bad bottle. So, but you have 30% to drink a good wine for $10. That's where the difference for me. That we are. I know that because I did that. You can imagine many times. You are going fishing. I say because when you pay $10, you can find fantastic wine or very good wine. Not fantastic, but very good wine. But sometimes the wines is really not so interesting. But the price is there, so we have to know that.
I had another question, a little also technical. I don't know. There's no really identification, but is the fresh barrel industry affected by COVID at the current situation of limited travel?
I don't think so. I don't think so because we'll see the next season because 19 is done. 20 is done in the southern hemisphere. So I think the winery bought barrel like they used to do, and we don't know what is happening for the next season. 2020 is coming because we are in June now. So June, July, August. In 3 months from now, we are doing harvest. I don't know exactly if all the winery did their comment. Maybe a little bit less now, but I'm sure in July, if we can see the perspective of the production good with a good vintage, with a good quality vintage, people will buy barrels like they are doing normally because the life is going and so I don't think anything changed. Maybe now because it's not easy when you are in lockdown to call your supplier and telling I want 200 new barrel like last year. It is not easy, but I'm sure if June is coming well, July is showing a good potential for the quality of the harvest. People will buy barrel like normally.
Thank you, Michel. I'm just noticing that it's we're already out of time, but I think there's still a lot of questions. So since we still have 100 participants, I think Gilles, we can maybe add a last question. But then Michel, we don't want to take too much of your time, so we know you have a lot to do. So Gilles, if you want to pick another last question, it's before we wrap up. It's up to you.
Yeah, sure. I was reading this question from Matthew, and that was interesting because Matthew is asking the same question. First, same question I asked you, Michel, when we spoke the other day on the phone. Do you think your taste palette has changed over time through your career? And have you changed your approach to making wine in your career? When and why?
Well, for sure. the answer is yes, but for many reasons. Because my career is now quite long, and the taste 35 years or 40 years ago was not exactly the same as today. 40 years ago, we were looking for mostly for problems on the wine, and we were looking to make the wines better because we were in difficulties with many things. By the time today, when you taste 100 or 200 wines side by side, you have no bad wines, but you have just to understand what the market is expecting, and that's a big change because we are not looking anymore to make the wine different. We are just looking to make the wine the market is expecting. So I can give you an example. My lab in Pomerol, because my lab is still in Pomerol. We send almost 10,000 samples to journalists all over the world, and because we have 230 portfolio winery in Bordeaux. So we were sending 230 bottles to each journalist in United Kingdom, in Asia, and in US, obviously. I did the taste, the complete taste, because it's the first time no one is coming to taste the wine, because normally they come to the lab and they taste the wine. No one was coming, so we sent the wines. But I did the taste myself, and I after that I spoke with all of them to know what they are thinking, because we send samples, so samples can change during. And in fact, no problem with the samples, and the wines are tasting really well. And in the 230 wines, there is a 10 euro wine, and there is a 150 euro wine. So it's not the same, but the wines at their level are showing well, and that's a big difference now for my job and for my tasting. Now we are looking to make the wine corresponding to a market, not to make the best wine, because to make the best wine we know how to do it, but after that we just have to be in adequation with the market, and that's another job. And the last point, when I was young enologist, the blending was almost all, maybe except the worst wine. Today, the blending is many properties where I'm working ask me, you do the best, don't worry about the volume. So that's a big change. So of course, I used to have to change my taste, because to do the best, your mind is not the same as to do a blend. So that's the other point. So I change a lot.
Okay. Thank you very much, Michel. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time all. And sorry we couldn't take all the questions. And I'll leave the last word to Laurence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Gilles. And thank you very much, Michel, for this really great discussion. I think we could have continued for hours and hours, because we had a lot of questions, and I think everybody was really happy to be able to ask you direct questions. That's a great opportunity. So, well, again, thank you very much. Just for the participant, the video will be in replay on YouTube, and we will send you the link. And stay tuned, because this is just the second edition of our series with Challenge, but we'll organize other live panel session, not with Michel in the wine industry, but other in the wine industry as well. Michel, I think we're going to do one in tech in the wine industry, because we think it's also, you know, an important evolution of the wine industry, and also maybe an addition on women in the wine industry and leadership of women in wine industry. With we don't know yet, we don't have the name, but we're working on it. So stay tuned for that. If you have any ideas of, you know, topics that could be interesting that we could cover, don't hesitate, because you are the experts of the wine industry. So feel free to send any suggestions. And again, thank you very much all. We were more than 100 attendees today. So Michel, it was really a huge success, and we hope that we can have you for the next French American Business Award, because we didn't announce it, but you should have been one of our special guests of the night. But hopefully we'll have you in person next year if it's possible. So again, thank you very much. And maybe in Napa for a smaller dinner, because we organize also, you know, grape circles, dinners with the executive of Napa Valley. You know a lot of them, well, it will be an honor. So thank you again, and thank you, Gilles, for the great moderation. As usual, it was perfect. So thank you, everybody, and see you next time.